But 2-2. The last time we talked, what was it? 2-1.
2-1.
It was 2-1.
2-1. It was now it's 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
Game 5 is today back in Phoenix.
Yep.
How did y'all feel about game 4? Because, man.
Chris Middleton and D-Book put on the show. They both was getting buckets.
Mm-hmm.
D-Book he was just in foul trouble the whole game, so we didn't even get to see what he really could have did.
He could have been out that game a
He
lot
had
earlier.
8 fouls.
Yeah, he had a lot of fouls. It's very, I don't know, different of him. He's definitely not a dude that you consider to be in foul trouble.
He's been in foul trouble a couple times throughout this playoff run.
But that's good that they going at him like that. Like, they making sure they not letting him get off the hook. You got to go at your other team's best players. But Chris Paul, I don't know. He's just on the road. He did not look the same as he did at home, and that's very unlike him because you expect him to be like that leader on the road. He kind of always rallied the troops, but he honestly was not that guy.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, they really, besides maybe like a few, Devin Booker was obviously on fire. Cam Johnson had a lot of big bucks, but they literally can't hit shots. And luckily for them, since they have the best record, they don't have to do what the Bucks got to do is win one on the road. They could go home both times and win those games, and they could wrap up the series. But it's going to be a lot of storylines that I think that can come in for Game 5. Obviously, Chris Paul needs to perform a lot better. We know that the Suns have the potential to shoot better. I think Jrue Holiday is looking to. He's got to have a one type of game where he's literally like he's going to have 30 plus. Efficient shooting and all that type of game. It's literally got to come.
It would be nice to have it on the road, too.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of players looking to have bounce-back games for this Game 5. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I want to see how the refs are going to be. I think Game 4 is super physical. You know, a lot of that stuff they started letting down the road or, like, down the stretch they were letting it slide, but I like that physicality they had.
Aiden has not been the player he's been in the other previous series, offensively at least. I mean, he's rebounding the ball pretty decently, and defensively he's trying with Giannis. But for the most part, offensively, he is just not putting up the points that he was in those previous series. And I think that's a big part of what's making Phoenix struggle because they're missing those points, and Mikal and Jay Crowder aren't consistently giving them those shots that they normally had. I mean, not that they normally had, but, like, to make up from what Aiden's not giving them.
Y'all burying the lead a little bit. We saw the second greatest block in NBA history in game number 4. Like, legitimately the second greatest.
Yeah.
I think you can make an argument for it being the greatest, but I think LeBron's number 1 considering the stakes is game 7, yada, yada. But, like, the difficulty level on Giannis's block is higher than LeBron's.
Yeah.
Just because he was guarding Devin Booker, who was the ball handler in the pick and roll, and then he recovered to block the alley-oop. Like, some shit that doesn't happen often. Like, I was listening to, I think it was a mismatch with Kevin O'Connor and Chris Vernon, and they were saying out of the season, that is basically the first time that has happened where someone has been guarding the ball handler and recovered to block an alley-oop.
Yeah.
And it happened in a game where I think it's a 2-point game with a minute left and a critical game 4 for them. He gets that block, and then I think they hit a 3 on the other end. So it's like just one of the biggest plays ever.
Giannis had been solid all game defensively. He had a possession that blew me away when he guarded CP3 in a mid-range, and CP3 tried to get to that step back, and Giannis ain't fall for it. And I couldn't believe that he guarded that shit so well. I don't even think Chris Paul saw that coming. Like, that shit was magnificent. That was before that block, and I remember tweeting out, like, man, Giannis is blowing me away defensively because that type of shit right there is what you want from your best player. Is like, he could have easily gave Chris Paul that shot, like, oh, I'm going to take this playoff, or I ain't going to go at it as hard. But those are the game-defining shits. For me, D-Mills, yeah, you're right. Aiden ain't scored the way he usually does. But, I mean, the Bucks had 17 offensive rebounds. That's crazy.
Glass.
17 offensive rebounds. Chris Paul didn't score the ball like he usually does, but I'm always surprised when I see Chris Paul turning the ball over. That's the most uncharacteristic shit I've seen from him. And the past 2 games, he's kind of – or was that game 2? He's just had some very ill-advised turnovers that aren't usually Chris Paul.
He's averaging 5 turnovers per.
And that's
That's not Chris Paul.
That's not Chris Paul. I also want to give a little credit to Budenholzer. They look like they're kind of running some sets. They've been able to get some, like, easy buckets off ducking passes, which is – I mean, at the end of the day, those add up. If you get 5 or 6 over those over the course of the game, that's 12 points versus, maybe ISO heavy contested shots that you jacking up.
Yeah, I mean, Jrue Holiday hasn't shot the ball well, but the part of Chris Paul having 5+ turnovers a game is Jrue Holiday's defense. He's picking them up full court almost every possession. And that type of pressure is something you don't see for Chris Paul very often. I mean, people kind of give him a lot of room to work with because he is one of the greatest of all time. And if he blows by you, then that's a bucket for the other team. Jrue Holiday's like, no, I'm going to shut that down. And a lot of them are unforced, too, for Chris Paul. Like the one that mattered the most was at the end of the game, unforced turnover. He tried to throw behind the back pass, unforced turnover. You know, those things that you don't expect the point guard to do, he's doing, and it's hurting the team. But I can't come in here and say, like, I don't expect him to have a big game 5 because I really do expect him to have a really big game 5.
Giannis has been a big reason why he's struggling too. When they do that pick and roll and he switches on Giannis, that length of Giannis is actually really like giving him some trouble because Giannis actually has the foot speed to kind of keep up with him a little bit.
It's almost like Giannis was the defensive player of the year once upon a time.
Yeah.
Remember like 2 series ago, people were making fun of Giannis because he didn't want to guard KD. And now we're seeing
I
in the finals.
I remember he did have that possession though where he guarded Kevin Durant. He got a block on a mid-range. We never see that.
Yeah. And that's still I still stand on shit that I was saying about that. Like I want to see the defensive player of the year guard the other team's best player down a stretch at least.
And it's just like even if it's just for that quarter, it's just like no reason not to.
Yeah.
Every time we see Giannis still amazes me still this day. Like not only just that block, but there's so many times where he's like so far away from the rim. And he still just dunks the ball because he's just so long and everything like that. So
he said he even thought he was getting dunked on by Aiden in that possession.
Of course.
And all those times where people are like, oh, he's not the last guy to take the shot or anything like these are all the things that make up for it.
Yeah,
like these give your team the ability where there is no game-winning shot because the team is up 5-10 points.
And that's why people should be okay with people saying that Chris Middleton is the guy down the stretch. Because
it's not many times where it is a down the stretch you go against the Bucks.
It don't matter because he can do all of these other things. It's just the facts are the facts.
And Chris Middleton is doing something legendary. He has the most go-ahead / game-tying shots late in the fourth quarter overtime in the playoff run since 2007 LeBron James. So he is really carrying down the stretch when it matters the most. I know his counting stats may not be amazing for this playoff run because he struggles on the road or whatever you want to call it, but he has hit some ridiculously big shots for them and part of the reason why they're in this position right now. So shout out to Chris Middleton. Here are some stats. In the playoffs, Chris Middleton at home is averaging 25 points per game on 47% shooting. On the road, he's only averaging 22 on 40% shooting. In the finals, it's a bigger margin with 29 points per game at home and 20 in a row.
That's your saying.
Hey, he hasn't shown. I mean, he's gonna have to do it if this game, if this goes to a game 7, and he doesn't show up on game 7 in Phoenix. I think you could wrap it up.
I hope it goes to 7 games, but I'm not gonna lie. I think the Bucks have it tonight. The Bucks have unlocked a certain level of confidence.
Yeah,
they're rolling, and they've been kicking their ass. Like the last game was close for sure, and it came down to the Chris Paul turnover, or whatever. But game 3, they kicked their ass. It won't be the same ways because I think in game 5 you're more likely to have Chris Paul and Devin Booker play good, which in game 3 Devin Booker had 10 points. In game 4 he had 38 going into the 4th, but Chris Paul wasn't on shit. I think game 5 you probably have them both coming out and being better than they were in those 3 and 4 games. But I still think that I don't know, man. I don't know. It seems like they got the Aiden. They've neutralized him, which to me is the
key.
Yeah, the X factor. He makes the Suns a 3-headed monster. But if you cross him out and it's just those two, and now it's just a Giannis and Middleton versus Chris Paul and Booker, and you just man, like Mike said, the Jrue Holiday game is coming. And if Jrue Holiday can have that game on the road in Phoenix in this next game, it will help them a lot. I will say Jay Crowder has been shooting the ball. My theory of when he get 2 or 3 of them things, it's usually a wrap. He's done that game in 3 and 4, and they still lost. So they just got to make sure they neutralize Aiden, and they don't let a guy like Mikal Bridges have 27 points.
Yeah, what you do notice about teams that they role players just play much better at home. So like Mikal and them, they probably gonna have a game too in Phoenix. They probably got a game coming too.
I'm picking Phoenix in game 5. I believe game 4 was an anomaly. The Suns shot 51% from the field and lost. The Bucks shot 40% from the field and won. That shit don't happen in NBA history often. So I do believe, like all the things you said, that the role players play better at home. Chris Paul is not going to give them a shitter of a game again. At least I hope not. If he do, then call it a series.
If you got them stats up, how many more shot attempts did they have, though? With all the offensive rebounds.
I'll let you know in a second. Second chance points definitely played a huge part in this one. But I wasn't looking at the actual box score. I was just
17 offensive rebounds to 5. I know that off the top of my brain.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You just
That's
be looking
ridiculous.
at that?
Those are things I look at.
No, those are the ones. Those are like the stats that actually.
Offensive
They
rebounds.
shot 19 more shots.
And the Bucks shot over 80% from the free throw line, which is what they've done in their 2 wins. In their 2 losses, they've shot below 70%. They got to continue to make free throws.
Part of that is Chris Middleton getting to the line in these last 2 games, rather
the
than the
first
first
2
2 we had
games,
nothing.
Did y'all hear? I think it was like a couple games ago, but Giannis is telling them like, yeah, we be telling Chris Middleton to shoot. Like, we be telling him to pass the ball towards the net. Because sometimes I guess he just get hesitant or he'll get into that mode where he just wants to be like that playmaker type dude where it's just like they need him to go off all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's part of like that confidence thing. He probably loses his confidence a little bit, so he stops shooting.
It's been a good series, man. I'm just scrolling down Stat Muses. Y'all know Stat Muse?
Yeah.
I'm looking at their Twitter account, and so far in this series, the Suns have 692 points and the Bucks have 693. So it's a 1-point difference in the entire series. I know games 1 through 3 basically were all blowouts, but it still was super,
And
super
the
close.
first 2 games, they like the Suns dominated. Well, not dominated, but it just felt like the Suns had that shit.
For sure.
Like it take like the Bucks are right there, but it was like the Suns are just playing better basketball at this point. We got to expect, them to, especially with the way Chris Paul was playing too.
That's why I think that Game 3 win was so big for them because they didn't like buzzer beater, but they beat the Suns' ass, and it was a confidence booster to say, hey, they got on our ass in the first 2 games, but we can get on their ass too, and we belong here. We just as good as them, and I think that type of shit is important when you're down 0-2 with your back against the wall. You need that confidence booster that, hey, this ain't like a fluke game. No, we actually beat their ass. I know Devin Booker, 10 points probably won't happen again, but who cares? Y'all beat their ass. It don't have to happen again. All you need for sometimes is something to happen once. Like the Suns. I don't think Mikal Bridges is ever going to give you 27 points a game in this series. But all they needed to happen is that one time. That one time could be the reason that they have an NBA Finals. And that's what it's all about. So, yeah, man, I don't know. I was just so impressed with Giannis, obviously, and that's why I just think he's in a certain mode. They got me feeling for them for Game 5, but I'm so impressed with Middleton, and I know we can only see the go-ahead bucket stats or whatever, but when they're in those stretches where the Suns are up 7, 9, and 5, and it just keeps going back and forth, it feels like Chris Middleton always has that timely mid-range or 3 bucket, which to me is just as important, if not more important, than the down the stretch, down by 2 or go-ahead basket, because you need those momentum stops and to stop the bleeding of the other team. Those are important shots to me.
It's a lot of times in games where, like, it is a 5 or 7 point game, and it's not that one possession. But you have a really good possession. It's an open shot, and it goes down and out. You're like, damn, they just scored on the other side of the court. That's a 7 or 5 point play right there. Like, those are the type of things that win the game in the end.
Some morale blow. You know who used to do that a lot?
Who?
A few years ago? And I know they were like the greatest team ever, but the fucking Warriors, when they used to play LeBron and the Cavs in those finals, Sean Livingston, Iguodala, even when they have
Iguodala, he won't, like, if his life was on the line, he wasn't going to make it.
from a series and hit a big one.
Yeah.
If it's a game winner, tie it up, anything, he's going to knock it down.
Most Spates, they just had guys who was just like, even when they had Barbosa early in that rivalry, it was like LeBron and the Cavs making this push. They got it from 17 to 5, and now here Mo Spates go. He hit 2 threes in a row, and now
that'd be the worst too.
And those are the ones where it's like that's where you need the bucket. And so I admire that from Chris Middleton, where it's like 5 and 7 point stretches where if you don't make these 2 shots, Phoenix can now go on the other end and make it an 11-point game, and now you're looking at the clock and the team feels like they have to just hoist up threes, which at one point the Bucks kind of was doing. Like Pat McConnaughton and Bobby Portis were out there, and they were just trying to launch. Drew Holiday launches a lot of threes. But I like Middleton because he's able to calm them down and get the little mid-range where it's like, man, we just need 2 for right now. Just keep up with them. Don't let them expand on this lead, because if you do, then before you know it, morale is down and everybody's hoisting threes. But the closer you keep it, the more Giannis can get involved, and you don't have to feel rushed. Because when they start rushing, it's hard to get Giannis into it because they just want to get threes. That's not his game, and you start playing out of control. But I think those timely buckets are important to have. And even Phoenix has Devin Booker and Chris Paul who can get those in a little mid-range PNRs and everything. But yeah, man, it's been a really, really good series. I keep trying to remind fans of, like, bro, even if you are a Suns or Bucks fan, like don't get too high, don't get too low, but just enjoy it. Because
Yeah.
when everybody get healthy and shit for next year, I don't know if we ever
even in the moment, I know they be like. They're going. He's on the other team, but I know even the Bucks be like, "Bro, Devin Booker is amazing. Like this dude won't quit. Like we're trying to put them away, and Devin Booker just making every tough shot, 2 hands, 4 hands in his face, 3 people on him. Like he's making everything.
Yeah.
That was a good statement, fam. For motherfuckers talking about this Chris Paul team and shit.
And
Stop it.
he should have fouled out 4 times. I mean,
Bro,
Yeah,
that
he
last one was so crazy.
The announcers were literally like, "He just fouled Drew Holiday. They didn't
Yeah,
call
they
him."
didn't call him. But
I even like asked P. I was like, "Was that verticality?"
No,
Because like
he tweaked
no,
him,
because
bro.
like
the
live,
man bear hugged him.
no, because live when it first happened, like seeing the refs not call it, I was like, he must have been vertical then, right?
and I know a lot of people thought I was joking because remember I put the tweet out
Yeah.
of Devin Booker hugging him, and I'm like, D Mills, AP, is that verticality? They probably thought I was joking. He literally
Yeah,
asked
he
that
did
damn
ask that.
question.
Yeah.
Because I was so surprised that they didn't call it too. That's how much I thought it was. He probably was vertical.
Yeah. Luckily, the Bucks got the offensive rebound to score, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And luckily, they ended up winning that game because if Devin Booker would have hit a game winner or something, bro, like, come on, bro, that would have been bad for the whole NBA, honestly.
Yeah.
Miss a call that.
You know what players like that, bro? That I just it eats me up. When Kevin Durant saved that fucking ball,
he ran out of
Yeah.
bounds.
That was so bad.
big
for
shoe
NBA,
wear.
bro.
Bro, his whole it was stepping on where the
Yes.
say Warriors and everything.
Like that was just blatant.
I got to
just-
rewatch. What is the stakes at that game? Is it?
Wasn't
all right,
that Game 7 against the Rockets?
I'm looking it up.
I think it was like
again.
game 6.
Game 6. Okay.
Something like that. It was
Yeah.
it was actually in the Warriors. So
Yeah.
it was probably like game 7.
Yeah,
Kevin
it's against the
Durant.
Rockets.
That shit was terrible.
Because he was literally running out of bounds.
That shit was so bad. Like,
Steps out of
there's no
bounds.
argument that a fucking Warrior fan or Kevin Durant fanatic could say about
This
that.
thing got so many views.
Because it
Oh
was
my
a big
God.
part of the game. It was like a really big turning part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
And they didn't have like the new challenge thing that they have, did they?
I don't think
No,
so.
Couldn't,
this-
you
So
couldn't
that would've
challenge
been-
it.
that would've
It would
been
have had to been
perfect.
called.
That'd
No,
been
it would have had to
perfect.
been called.
Anyway,
for them to
yeah,
challenge
Mills
it.
is right.
No, but he's saying if they had.
Okay, here are the
You
stakes.
can still challenge it.
This is it's 30. No, you can't. If a whistle's not called, you can't say.
Yeah, you can't
Give me a
challenge it.
challenge on something.
Y'all
like that.
right, yeah.
30 seconds left. Tie game. 132. I can't really see what game this is because it didn't. But James Harden hit the game winner. Is what
that's-
this says.
Oh, okay.
So James Harden hit a game winner. So I guess it don't matter too much.
Oh,
Wait, what day
that's-
was that?
That was the regular season.
Was that
then.
Christmas? James Harden-
That's when he hit it over Clay and Dre.
January 3rd,
Okay, no, that
2019. So it
wasn't.
wasn't even a crucial game.
Why did I think?
Why
that
do
was
we think it's a
game?
playoff
I,
game?
feel
I
like
thought
that
it was a playoff
game.
game.
Because I think people use that screenshot so often, it's hard not to think that it was like a crucial moment in NBA
I was
history.
just watching the highlights of that game. I was watching James Harden highlights.
James Harden looking at the ref like, what the fuck? You just missed that call. Bro, he is so out of bounds in this play. Oh, my God. The fans not even
Such a
cheering
bad
for
play. Such
That
a bad
man.
The refs close to it probably had money on that game.
it. And Steph hit a bucket after that. But like the title said, James Harden hit a game. Oh, I remember this game
Over Clay and
winner.
Dre?
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
That
Oh,
shit
my
was
God.
And then he
legendary.
called
Was that
Dray-
over Clay and Dre?
Yeah, this
And
is
he
the
called
double-
Draymond-
I
oh
could have
my
sworn that
God.
shit was
Yeah.
like a Christmas game.
He called Draymond a bitch after that shot.
Ooh.
Yeah, he did.
That shit should have been an and one too, if I remember.
Yes, it
Yeah.
should have been.
Yeah, he got his ass beat.
Now I was I want to know from you.
What's up?
Got a question for you.
He said bitch ass.